Hey everybody, welcome to my channel. It's cake baking time again with Cinderella Jane.
So here I am right back at it again. Today I'm doing a round cake and making sure I use all the tips that I gave you. Coating my pan with pan release and then putting on the baking strips. The cloth baking strips actually do better on the round cakes than they do on the sheet cakes.
So after it's coated with the pan release and the baking strips are on the pans, then you want to fill it with cake mix and you want to fill it about halfway so it does not cook over and make a mess in your oven. See how nice and flat the cakes come out? You never have to worry about cutting the tops off or any of the other ideas that people come up with as long as you use the baking strips. Wouldn't you say this is just the simplest way possible? And just so you know, I can never go with the recipe that's right on the box. I have to doctor up my cake mixes to make them exactly the way I want them, nice and moist. Here I'm using the Duncan Hines white cake mix. I'm using 1 box mix and an additional 1/3 a cup of mix. I'm also using 2 tablespoons of oil, 1 1/4 cups of water, and 3 egg whites.
Told you how much before that I hate fondant, and my hate for fondant has not changed much. It's a good product, but it's just not my thing. But this cake requires a little bit of fondant that I need to work with, so try to get that ready. It's kind of got to knead it a little bit to get it the texture you need it. This cake's going to have a banner on it, so I need to do the fondant. And it's going to be colored fondant, so I have to put a little color into that. It just takes a couple drops of the Precisely Right or Color Right Wilton products. Never use just your regular store-bought coloring because it will mess up your icings. You always want to use the Wilton products. They're made different, therefore they're going to behave differently in your icings. Make sure you always use those. I really should wear gloves on this part, but like I said, gloves are very hard to work with and I just really hate them. I can assure you my hands have been washed quite a few times. Before every step, I wash my hands again because the last thing I want is to get other colors or other stuff on the things I've already done. So as you can see, I rolled out my fondant and I got it cut the way I want it. And now I just got to wait for it to harden up a little bit so I can use it on the cake. If you make it thin enough, it works better. It'll harden quicker. Just trim away whatever parts you don't need, just like that. There. We're just gonna let that set now, and when I'm ready for it, it should be ready for me. Whenever you can do it, go ahead and mix up as much of your colored icing as you can at one time, and it'll keep you from having to try to match the colors later on. But this, I probably won't be able to mix it all up at one time because it's a lot of icing. I'm just going to work with the color until I get it to where I want it. Here I'm using the Wilton paste, and it's supposed to be a sky blue. I'm not as pleased with the color as I thought I would be, but we're getting there. So I'm going to go ahead and work on my bottom layer. sure you don't get any crumbs in your fresh icing. Some of those excess crumbs there. Just need a good spatula like this for spreading your icing. You don't want to try to spread it with a knife. I'm going to spread it with a good, solid spatula.
The blue icing color is a little bit darker than what I wanted, so I'm going to lighten it up just a little bit and put a second coat on. I'm going to set this one aside so it can crust over just a little bit so I can smooth it out with a paper towel.
As you know, I've talked about before taking the paper towel and smoothing my icing out as much as possible. And right now I'm going to do that. Get that all ready. You want to do it as soon as it starts to crust over just a little bit, because if you wait until it crusts over a lot, then it'll crack. So you want to just barely let it get a little air dry. Crust over just a tiny bit. I didn't even let it set for 5 minutes. Probably 2 minutes, 3 minutes. And then just go back and take your paper towel and smooth it all out. It's always better to have a little too much icing on top and in the middle than it is to not have enough, but you just got to make sure it does not pile up around the bottom. Okay, one of the things I want to show you about stacking cakes on top of each other, there's various ways of doing it. People put posts through the middle of it. They do all sorts of things, but I like to do it with a plate. So the first thing you do is you line your plate up really nice in the center so that you make sure it's going to be in the center of your cake. And you set this down on there and it marks your spots where your legs are going to go. I don't know if you can see that or not, but if you can look real close, you can see my little marks that I made so I know where to put the legs of my post. So then I'm going to take the little post, slide them down in here, like so. And that helps keep the cake nice and stable. Okay, when I get to that point, then I take my plate, I set the legs right down in there, And it's ready for a layer of cake to be set on top of it. It should be nice and sturdy. So now it's just on to the decorating. Okay, I'm going to put some clouds on here. Just going to do so with my round tip. After I get the decorations on there, then I'm going to take the paper towel and kind of pat them down again a little bit to make them crisper looking. I'm going to outline my planes and my clouds a little bit more because I think it makes them look a little more defined. So that's what I'm doing now. A lot of those decorations can be sharper looking if they're put on in fondant, but most of the people I make cakes for don't really care for the fondant so much, so they would rather me try to draw them with the icing if possible. So now it's time to stack the cakes. I always put a little icing on top of that plate before I put the other cake on it, and that will keep it stable while I am transporting it to its location.
In case you wonder what I'm doing, I'm trying to find the best sides of each cake so that when I put them together, each one will be showing its best side when I deliver it. I wasn't quite happy with that, so I had to take it off and redo it. I am way too particular with my cakes. I work so hard to make them perfect, and there's no cake that's ever going to be perfect, but I definitely want to give it my best shot for every single cake. So now it's time to put on the fondant banner and the finishing touches, and soon the cake will be complete. I guess for this cake I really should put on the borders first. And they are two different colors, so they're going to take a little bit of time. Time for the fondant airplane and banner. I usually put a little icing on the spots that I'm going to put it on, and that kind of helps it stick. Or you can also wet the back of your fondant, and that'll help it stick to your icing as well. So I'm just putting on all the finishing touches, trying to make it as best it can be, because it's about time for this little girl's birthday party. And I know she's going to be excited. She was so sweet at the party. She said, "I just love my cake. Thank you for my cake." And that's exactly why I do them, because I love to put smiles on their faces. I hope you enjoy my cake baking tips, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Smash the like button, hit the subscribe button, and I hope to see you in the next video.